5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go!
No matter who wins today, I think we're going to have some really close matches. If we manage to get third instead of fourth, then we'll have 20 extra points.
The importance of the points that we will gain, it's just good coming into the next split.
There's a lot more motivation for us to secure the third spot.
It looks like they have enough to freeze the horse, cut him down, start producing a
He is
little bit of
wait a minute! Oh my God! Quash!
and he gets first blood before he goes down.
Another important reason is to put them at fourth, where they belong.
This is our chance to prove that we're no longer the old squad where we struggle to get past fourth.
It does stop once again at fourth place. The curse continues.
Piglet's definitely going to try his hardest to prove to Impact that he's now on the stronger team.
Team Liquid's bot lane is really strong. I don't think we'll get outlaned by them, but we definitely have to be wary of them.
Let's see what the better team is.
Welcome everyone to the final week of the North American LCS Spring Playoffs. We've got a hyped up audience here in Los Angeles, California, eager to see the brawl for third place between Team Liquid and Team Impulse. There is a ton of support for both teams, and here you see Team Liquid and their head coach, Peter, heading in to the studio a short time ago. They'll be taking on Team Impulse, who rolled up in style with their color-coordinated van. Hello, I'm James Patterson, and starting off here in the fan zone, joining me on the desk are Joshua Jat Leesman and Sam Kobe Hartman Kensler. Gentlemen, it is a beautiful day out for some League of Legends.
Yeah. Not only do we have a hyped up crowd, we have a hyped up dash. That was the loudest I've ever heard you introduce the show.
I know. There's so much energy out here, it's hard not to get excited. But with all that energy, let's pull up the bracket to see how the teams got here. Team Liquid started the playoffs strong, sweeping CLG in the quarterfinals 3-0. Things look to be going about the same for Liquid in the semifinals against Cloud9. When they took the first two games, the Cloud9 pulled the reverse sweep to once again secure a spot in the finals. On the other side of the bracket, Impulse took down Gravity 3-1, but were then defeated themselves by the number one seed 3-1 TSM. That means our third place match is once again Team Liquid versus Team Impulse. And for the fourth consecutive split, our championship features Team Solo Mid and Cloud9. Gentlemen, thoughts on this kind of,
big surprise.
Exactly.
Yeah.
What do we think so far, though, of this playoffs and the way they're working out?
Yeah, well, the way Team Liquid ended up in the third place match is the most heartbreaking that they have yet. But honestly, it's the best they've looked coming into this game because they actually won two semifinals games. They were a game away from the finals. And from talking to this team, it does seem like they are in high spirits and not really worrying too much about the curse.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, every game matters this week, though, as teams are already fighting to secure their place at Worlds by racking up our all-important championship points. Now, an extra 20 points will go to the winner of today's series, and they will carry those with them into the summer split. And to explain the importance of what's on the line here, we're going to turn it over to a couple of pros.
Compared to other seasons, Spring Split is now really important to have a good ranking. For this split, how it works is now the first team gets 90 points, second 70, 50, and then 30. There's a lot more motivation for us to play really well and secure the third spot. For the summer split, the first seed auto-qualifies to World, and then the second seed comes from the points. The third spot comes from a single elimination knockout bracket, which seeding comes from the points that the teams have gathered in both splits. The team who has gathered the most points besides the first team goes to Worlds.
I think the importance of the points that we will gain from Liquid if we beat them is it's just good coming into the next split. Coming off of a loss, you may just want to have that win to kind of put yourself back up a bit and have a little bit of confidence.
If we manage to win, then we'll have 20 points extra that we could definitely use for the summer split.
Now, if you could get championship points for explaining how championship points work, I'm sure Quas would walk away with a lot of them, but you have to win to do that. So we'll see if they can do that later today. Earlier in the week, though, a panel of team managers, casters, and league aficionados announced their selection for the Spring Split's Most Valuable Player Award, claiming the honor for a second time is TSM's Great Dane Bjergsen. Now, he has the most kills and least deaths for a mid laner, but beyond that impressive stat line, he has been a consistent performer for his team and has made incredible plays with his superb mechanics.
Yeah, I mean, this guy, it's a pretty obvious choice, in my opinion, for the MVP this split, because not only is he on the first place team, but he's had just as dominant a split as ever. This time as well, being able to win games across the map, not just from soloing his mid lane opponent.
Yeah, he completely changes any game that he's in. Everybody on the map is looking at Bjergsen.
I was going to say that as the shot caller, bringing in new talent like Santorin, helping coach them into it. I mean, there's an element of that, too, in his MVP status. Now, we are going to send it over to Riv, who is standing by with our Spring Split MVP.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. I am joined by the game changer, the Dane in the mid lane from Team Solo Mid. It is Bjergsen getting the most valuable player award here for the Spring Split. But my first question to you is, now getting this back, this accolade that is yours once held before, how does it feel knowing all that hard work paid off and that you can once again put this on your shelf?
It feels really good. I feel like the last summer split of last year, I didn't really perform to the level I wanted to. And I feel like Wage Out really did deserve the MVP award. But I feel like this split, I really tried my hardest to come back and get to the level that I was on before. And I'm just really happy I'm here.
What was that kind of mindset that you had to put yourself in to push yourself a little bit more off of whatever plateau that you found yourself on?
It wasn't just in the game. Like, it's mostly about how I was really nervous on stage. I hadn't really found like my groove. And it was really about, Loco really helped me get past that. He really helped me like not have land jitters and not feel nervous for the big matches. And I think that's one of the major things that really helped me perform better this split.
All right, and obviously we have a big game going on today. What's your outlook here on Impulse versus Team Liquid?
I think it's going to be a really close series. We scrim both teams. I think if TIP is going to win, it's definitely going to be through Impact and Rush. Impact has been playing really, really well for the last weeks, and he's just a really solid top laner. But I think Liquid will take it just due to their superior team play. Liquid is just a really good team. We saw them 2-0ing Cloud9 in the best of 5 really early and looking super strong, but they didn't manage to pull through. So I'm going to say Liquid on this one.
All right, Liquid on this one, and obviously a big game tomorrow as you guys play Cloud9. Bjergsen, what's your outlook on that game? How are you guys feeling going into the finals?
I'd say we're feeling all right. C9 did win against Liquid, so they're definitely not a bad team by any means. I think it's going to be a really close series, and TSM C9 never fails to disappoint in finals.
Never disappoints indeed. Best of luck to Team Solomid and Cloud9 in that finals. We got a game going on today, though, and we are going to throw it back to the guys at the desk to get that underway.
Thank you, Riv. Very humbling there in his accepting of that award, but much deserved. We'll see if he can bring some of that into the series tomorrow. I'm sure they'll need some MVP plays out of the mid lane in order to take a series against Cloud9. But as we gear up for today's Best of 5 series, we want to know, how are you enjoying Championship Weekend? Share your pictures of viewing parties and decked-out setups by tweeting at LOL Esports and use the hashtag LCS. Now, we'll be highlighting a few of our favorites a bit later in the broadcast. And if you're going to be in Tallahassee, May 7th through May 11th, or 10th rather, come out for the Midseason Invitational and watch the best teams from around the world compete in 4 days of action. Space is still available, so head to lolesports.com and click the tickets link for all the details. But now, let's dive into today's battle for third place between Team Impulse and Team Liquid. League historians will remember that this is a repeat of our summer split third place match. In that series, Team Impulse, then LMQ, were able to pull off a huge 3-game comeback to claim the last spot at Worlds.
Yeah, and I mean, to be fair, this split, Impulse went through a complete renovation. Xiao Xiao is the only remaining member of that LMQ lineup, but still, he will remember this matchup and he will want to have the same result after this one. Looking at this season, you know, individually, Impulse was a strong team, but it was really in the middle of the split where the team came together as a cohesive unit. In the second half, they went 7-2, which actually tied them with Cloud9 for the best record in the NALCS.
Yeah, and a lot of that success in the mid part of the season hinges on Rush. You know, he's one of these players, he's a very polarizing player. When he has a great game, when his early aggressive moves work out, they look great, and you think this is an unstoppable team. But sometimes he does stumble in the early game, and he doesn't get the lanes ahead. Then they start to look a little bit lost. It also brings up Xiao Xiao, because he's a bit of a wild card in the mid lane there, never quite sure which Xiao Xiao is going to show up. I think that the one thing they can definitely count on, though, is Impact in the top lane. He's been a solid performer and a very, very strong point of power for them up developed in that top lane. Something else that's also fairly interesting is both of these teams in their semifinals got the team comps that they practiced the most and that they were really well known for, that they had been getting bans for the entire time, and they both lost with them.
The Twisted Fate Lee Sin.
Exactly.
That was their ace in the hole.
It was Xiao on Twisted Fate. Had been kept on drawing bans, and they finally got it. They face-planted with it. Same thing with Team Liquid. They got the Protect Piglet comp. They had the Lulu. They had everything. Lost with that as well. So I'm really always interested to see if the teams, after a loss like that, when you lose a series with your main comp, do you have the confidence to go back to it? Can you look at the gameplay objectively and just look at the mistakes for what they were and correct those mistakes and actually go back to your bread and butter?
Well, today is a good opportunity for both teams to end the split on a high note and carry that momentum into the summer split. And for Team Liquid, well, they'll be hoping to once and for all put the Forever Fourth curse to rest.
Oh, man, that looms over Team Liquid. And no one is more tired of hearing about the Forever Fourth than Team Liquid.
So let's talk about it.
Yeah, of course.
Of course, obviously.
We have to talk about it because it is the biggest thing looming over them for this game. And remember, they were just one game away from knocking Cloud9 down to this third-place game and securing a semifinal spot for themselves. And honestly, it's got to be devastating to them to be so close, and they do have to dig deep once again. They know what it's like to lose in a backdoor sweep. They know that they need to recover, and they know what they need to do to get third place. They have to dig deep for it.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing that is encouraging is how well Team Liquid have been playing recently. And the looks on their faces, they don't look devastated. Throughout the split, they struggled to find synergy with Piglet. And, there was a lot of talk about, are the communications too cluttered? He's a very vocal AD carry as opposed to Keith, who was much, much quieter. Recently, though, they look a lot more focused. They seem to have ironed out any shot calling problems that they had, and the team looks to be on the same page. Plus, I really feel like Phoenix is a big force for them. He's stepped up not only just as a playmaker in the mid lane, but also his variety of champions that he can pull out. He almost played a different champion every single playoff game that they had, and almost all of them were also very, very successful. Remember, this is a guy that switched lanes even. He used to be a top laner. His versatility is a really, really big asset for the team.
Well, last week was undoubtedly a very tough loss for Team Liquid, but Quas is opting to go and look at what went right as opposed to what went wrong when approaching this week's series.
So it's not the first time we lose a series after starting 2-0 and playing really well. It definitely takes a toll on us. Like the following days afterwards, we were pretty upset about it, but at least it wasn't a stomp like it's usually against C9. We played really well, and I'm happy about it. So I think we have more confidence going into this match, and even though we didn't manage to close out the series last time, I think we'll do pretty good.
Now, Quas, one of the veterans, you talked about Impact being a rock in the top lane. Quas definitely a rock for Team Liquid, so they'll be looking to him definitely for some of that veteran status coming through the top lane, keep him on an even keel. But now, before we send it over to the caster desk, I have to get you guys' predictions. Who do we think is coming away with the series today? Jat, we're starting with you.
Yeah, well, we've talked a fair bit about this. Phoenix being able to play different champions, I feel like if they get him on a carry role, adopting to the patch, I definitely feel like I Will Dominate is a better Nunu player than Rush, better tank player in general. I think Impulse will be playing not to the optimal ways on this patch, and I got to go with Team Liquid right here.
There it is, Team Liquid. He's got the jacket, the sweet jacket, Kobe.
Very nice jackets. Do you have a jacket, Kobe?
I don't have a jacket.
What do you got for us?
I have a T-shirt. They couldn't get me a jacket, but I'm gonna have to go with Team Impulse here. We already talked about Impact, but I think that Coach Fly is a really underrated part of why this team was successful in the middle of the season and towards the end. He is the one who actually helped Rush adapt to the lane swaps, and I think that he can help Rush adapt to this meta as well. I have a lot of confidence in Rush because whenever I look at jungle matchups, I always look at the jungler who can actually change the behavior of their opponent, playing on their tendencies and manipulating them. I really feel like Rush is the alpha jungler here, and he can bully around, dominate.
All right, well, we'll soon find out who's correct. Let's see how the people are voting right now on lolesports.com. The fans are calling the series for Team Liquid to the tune of 66%, so yeah, that's a sizable margin there in favor of Jad here. Well, let's waste no more time. Let's send it over to the caster desk to get the games underway.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. The weather is fine in here as well. Hello, everyone. I am Rivington Bislin III, along with my wingmen today, David Freak Turley and Aiden Zyrene Moon this time. It's going to be a different three, but I like it.
I like it a whole lot. It's the
Yeah.
first time I've cast a real game with you in like 2 years, so
It's
I'm
gonna be
excited
good.
to have this partnership back together.
First with Zyrene.
Sorry, I always like you.
It's my first TriCast, so I'm
It's going to
really
be
excited.
awesome. Well, we have some awesome games to get the TriCast going down for. Let's get into the action with a quick roster rundown on the blue side. To start, it will be Team Impulse. That's Impact in the top lane, Rush in the jungle, Xiao Wei Xiao in the mid lane, Apollo AD carry, and Adrian over at support.
And meanwhile, on the red side, it is Team Liquid for some of these games. Quas in the top lane,
Yeah.
I Will Dominate in the jungle, Phoenix in mid, Piglet on AD carry, and Xpecial on support.
It's true. Some of these games is a good way to put it. Impulse likes to do their side switches towards red, it seems.
Yeah, they ended up going blue, red for game 3, and then blue for game 5. So the
Yeah.
only actually switch that we're having is in the middle, it's just going to be 3 games of the same side for the teams, blue and red. So it's going to be really interesting to see that go down. And I actually
Absolutely.
like that because they're doing what TSM did with their side selection, where they at least get to use their red side strategies one time.
Yeah, and of course, Team Liquid picking blue for both of their side choice games on 2 and 4. So we'll
Right.
see as that unfolds throughout the series. Let's see if we get ourselves another nice, fun one going on here. Picks and bans going to be starting out. Like I said, we don't have the graphics on the screen just now, but right now, Maokai and Scion have been banned by Team Impulse. Rumble has been banned by Team Liquid.
We'll see what else they get out here. Everybody that's played against
And a Hecarim.
Impulse went 3 towards the top lane. If it wasn't Morgana last, it was Morgana last, if you will. They just kept going to ban out Impact. We'll see if they do it again.
Well, that's what happened in the previous set against Impact. It was just constant top lane
Over and
bans.
over.
But that's the thing, is Rush doesn't play these high priority champions like Sejuani just yet, so you can leave those open.
Yeah, okay, so just to recap you guys for the picks and bans, because we don't have them on the screen right now, the total bans for Team Impulse are Maokai and Scion away from Quas and Urgot away from Phoenix. Meanwhile, for Purple Team, Rumble, Hecarim, and Morgana, 3 impact-focused bans here in his top lane pool.
These are the exact same 3 bans against Team Impulse that TSM did in their 3
over and
victories.
over.
The 3 games that they ended up winning.
And when you say that, you mean all 3 games.
Yes, I mean all 3 games they won.
But look at this, Rush found himself a new tank jungler. He had played Nunu so often in last years, but he's learned the Gragas, and I know you're a big proponent of Gragas being the tank jungler that the fighter jungler should learn first, and that he's got some similarities there.
He's very similar because he takes over the early game. His level 3 is extremely potent, and I think this champion that Rush is going to fit right into his playstyle. He got crushed by Santorin's Gragas, and I think it's going to transition into the late game as a tank very easily for him.
Well, we've seen it produce a lot of fights. We also saw it just in the EU LCS, putting up some big numbers. Rek'Sai and Nautilus to get locked in here for Xpecial, and Dominate to start things off. Kind of saying naysay to the tank junglers.
Yeah, the Sejuani's left open, and this signals to me that Dominate is going to try to match Rush's aggression and gank and upset these lanes.
Cinderhulk Rek'Sai most likely going to be pretty interesting to watch for here. Interesting to see which champions have been adapted to that style, and still get some early game pressure as well. The global pressure also nice. No bot lane bans whatsoever. Maybe you can count Urgot as that, but Xpecial really wanting Nautilus blind pick for himself. Impulse do not typically rely on their bottom lane here, but they've got to deal with hooks down there. Gnar already grabbed, and they are going to play Kalista for Apollo here. We don't see him normally be a high-impact player, but he's already set up for this.
Come on, baby, give me that Kennen support.
There's a real good chance.
But no, that Gnar getting picked up, very nice for them as well with that Rek'Sai pickup. The Nunu is left open. Something Nunu and Sej, Nunu Sej. I feel like that's the first 2 things that Dominate's just been going for over and over again. So interesting to see what Team Liquid will totally come out with here.
Yeah, it could be a top lane Rek'Sai. That is actually pretty good with the smite. But the thing here is I love that Gnar pickup because the big top laner that's left that's actually aggressive is Shyvana. And Gnar counters the TP smite Shyvana at this moment. So the fact that they're blue side and they don't get that counter pick, they just pick a powerful champion that would be the counter if they pick Shyvana first.
Yeah, I think it's very smart by Impulse to make sure Impact gets a strong laner who can bully, who can have split push presence. It's one of
core
Impulse's... Oh, it's a huge lane for Impulse. I mean, the Rush Impact duo lane is the core duo lane for Impulse overall, really. And yeah, getting that early pick, which again surprises me that Rek'Sai was picked so early by Dominate, that champion would be uncontested at this point, and they allow Impulse to get an important top laner. But here comes a bunch of scaling.
Well, hot damn.
Vladimir and Vayne picked up.
You don't know where that Vladimir is going to go either. Quas played a game of it previously in their quarterfinals against Gravity, so we'll have to see if that goes to Phoenix or Quas. They get to have that kind of diversity there.
I really like how Red Side can pick a flex pick kind of late and then say, we can make, like, you either have both your lanes counterpick to Vladimir, which is pretty hard to do, or Liquid gets to put that champion wherever they want in the lane and then counterpick whatever one's left over.
The Vayne, though, for Piglet. Vayne Nautilus. There's a lot of setup there, a lot of peel for that Vayne. from one single champion. You don't have to actually get a whole bunch of team members like draft a jungler that's going to peel. Nautilus does a lot himself. He's got 4 types of CCs.
Yeah, they have good AoE as well with the Vlad there, so something around at that composition would be nice for Team Liquid as they now take a final glance at what Impulse can put together. Xiaowei Xiao's Orianna came up very, very big versus Team Solo Mid. Can they do it again now as they take the Thresh and the Ori?
It's the safe pick there. You don't know what you're going to be playing it into, so pick something that's really easy to farm with.
And it's good against Vladimir in the specific matchup here. So Phoenix either gets into a bad matchup himself, or they shove it off to Quas. And I know a lot of people don't really like top lane Vladimir due to the fact that he can't really bring Ghost reliably. So maybe this is exactly what Impulse is happy about here, letting Phoenix get that Vladimir that we'd seen so many teams ban away from him. Liquid now to make their last final choice. And the thing is, they don't have a lot of defensive fallback. Their wave clear is pretty bad. Their siege isn't very strong as well. So all they can do right now is open field team fights. And maybe they can supplement that in some way. A split push would help break the map up and allow them to play more of a team fight style.
I'm really worried about the wave clear from Team Liquid because it's all right now. It's split push Vladimir.
Yeah.
And they need something else that's going to be able to clear waves if they get behind a little bit. But the Zed there to try and lock down Piglet. And also, it's a pretty decent matchup in that mid lane. Ori has that skill matchup, though.
All right, so coming into this game, do you guys think both teams, so far, game 1, even though they kind of got some leg room to work with, have gotten teams that they can actually work this series?
This is very interesting because Impulse, right, they got their core of impact on a good champion.
Yeah.
Rush learned Gragas, that's huge. And a really big surprising thing is Apollo's on Kalista. And this is not normally what we see come out of this Team Impulse bottom lane. It's normally utility bottom lane, Sivir, Leona, Annie, the big champs you see from these guys. And so a very new look for them. Team Liquid, meanwhile, they actually are enabling their solos to carry. They've got Vladimir in the top lane, Zed in the middle to go do crazy things. So both these teams have done something different now.
They're actually stealing a lot of things away from each other, too. When you pick up the Nautilus first round on blue side, or on red side, taking the Kalista away is imperative because Kalista Nautilus is actually a very good combination, too, because when they start getting in there, all that peel, and then they pair it with a Vayne, too. So this is actually just a lot of diversity that we're seeing in Champion Select over what they performed in the semifinals.
And a lot of pressure now that goes on to Piglet with that pickup as well. He gets his Vayne the first time. Something that's usually just hovered. Everybody cheers, and then he goes back to something else. But this time, he gets the Vayne, and we're going to see what happens. He gets to go up against his old buddy Impact to see who is now on the better team. Remember to keep updating your series predictions throughout today's games. Tweet hashtag TIPWin or hashtag TLWin to @LOL Esports. We'll be checking in periodically, as usual, to see which way you're voting. Already, the people are voting for Liquid on this one. Are you voting with or against them? We'll see. And we are about to be onto the Rift. This is our first matchup, 3rd, 4th place. It's going to be Impulse versus Liquid.
All right, here we go, guys. The team's leaving the gates, and you've always got to ask, Team Liquid, is this the year they break the curse? Is this the year they finish higher than 4th place for the first time since 2012?
If it doesn't, you got to wonder who's infected, who's got it.
At this point, there's no one remaining from that original roster except, I think, Dominate. And even then, actually, in 2012, it was Saint, I'm pretty sure. So I guess it's Liquid 1 and 2 himself. It's his fault.
None of these players have been above 4th, except for Special. He's been above 4th before.
Yeah.
Maybe he's going to bring him up with him.
I mean, Piglet won Worlds once.
That's true. NALCS. NALCS.
We'll see what they have for each other in the beginning.
30 seconds until
Impulse doing very well if they can get a lead within the game, but when we see them from behind, it doesn't work the same. They're not really able to fix what's happening. We've seen Team Liquid be able to kind of right that instance a few times, but Impulse with the first lead will definitely be big trouble here for Liquid. The other way around, Liquid still has some room.
And I do want to pay a whole bunch of attention to the junglers and the AD carries in these games. Because the junglers, both are on very early aggressive junglers, and Rush with the Gragas, like Freak said earlier, is a great pickup for him, the fighter jungler. I want to watch his path, and I want to see how these AD carries on these very mobile guys play these team fights out.
And the matchup itself as well, if they ever do battle these two marksmen, it's a really tricky fight. Whoever's ahead pretty much guaranteed wins because the chasing power is really strong for both those. So that'll be a very fun matchup to watch over time. Looks like Team Impulse will be starting out the Sentinel and a quick Gromp start. Same thing for Team Liquid here in their dual lane, so it is going to be a lane swap overall. Looks like the top laners are also helping the junglers on their respective sides of the map, so very equivalent starts right here.
So slow movement. Looks like Special will actually join lane here as we get the roam from Adrian. See what he can figure out here in the early part of the game. We've definitely seen early level 2 roams from a Thresh, and it looks like they want to focus down onto Phoenix this time, maybe get a flash out. Flay is there. That's the slow.
He is level 2 already, too.
They gave him the Gromp. He's going to go for the backwards
he did
play.
Get it.
The hook.
He did get it.
Predict the hook. Phoenix juking back and forth. Lands up, but Shao doesn't have really the damage to follow up,
So
but it does
close.
mean Phoenix will have to chug all 3 potions to stay in lane.
Doesn't even have to use a summoner spell to get away, but they don't even use a summoner spell to close the distance either. He took exhaust for that Zed in the late game, so he doesn't have that early ignite to help blow through his HP bar.
And Shao with barrier for the same kind of reason. He's afraid of Zed. If it was actually like exhaust ignite both burn, they would have forced Phoenix to flash, but they save it. It's just a lane lead right now for Shao.
So Phoenix knows he'll get a little bit more attention. We'll see if he can actually keep himself safe from here on out. Now that he has the shadows, it shouldn't be too much of a problem. And they continue to just go safely through the jungle. That's knowledge, though, to Team Liquid, that they have kind of weathered the storm early, and now they can try to make a move or still play safe.
And that's something, too, in the mid lane. Shao in the previous series, he wasn't getting help in the mid lane. He was just left to farm, left to his own devices, and now they're actually putting resources into him in the mid lane. See what he can do with that. But look at this down bottom. They see this, though. Rushes around.
And this is actually really good for Team Impulse. You know, nice little bug. Okay, whatever. All they're doing is buying time, though. They actually managed to get down to this turret in time to not get like 4v2'd and forced off. This is something that Impulse was actually slow on in their game against TSM. They had to give up a lot of pressure on the turret, and Impact got behind because of it. This time around, Quas TP's in. He will get XP for himself, but either way, no dive happens. Apollo gets a shove in, gets some turret damage.
Dyrus giving a few cents on how the match will go, thinking actually it's Impulse that has the upper hand coming into this game, but tilt is definitely a big thing, and we've seen a lot of these series now go 5 games, and that plays on the mentality. Yeah.
Bjergsen said it was going to be a Liquid game here, so.
That's true.
Dissension in the ranks of Team Solo Mid. A preview of things to come for the finals.
Oh, boy.
So this game's still just about even with a little bit of pressure towards the mid lane. Adrian has joined now with Impact in the bottom. He's about to gnaw out, so Piglet's going to give himself some room. And pretty much safety around the map to start things off. I don't feel like we're going to get, obviously, too much jungler intervention with the 2v1 swap. So slow to start. You can 1v1 better here in the mid lane, though.
The 1v1 matchup, I feel like early on is really a lot better for Kalista against Vlad. There's really no items on Quas right now. Meanwhile, Impact's on a ranged champion, so that 2-on-2 of Adrian Impact is actually pretty decent. Considering that Piglet can, if he's not under his turret, is definitely available to be assaulted. So I feel like this lane matchup overall goes a little bit in the favor of Team Impulse.
Yeah.
But we'll see if that actually goes that way.
Yeah, they have a lot of presence from the support in the bottom lane, though, so there's always kill pressure when you have the Nautilus alongside the Vayne, whereas in the top lane, the Kalista solo killing the Vladimir is kind of a dream.
I'm interested to see if Kalista gets big for them as well. Apollo lately has been on that Sivir, a lot of utility for the team, really playing kind of on the back burner role, where during the season you'd see him on Graves and whatnot, getting quite a bit of kills in the fight with the team. So back on to kind of putting some priority on him to carry the game as well. We'll see how that works for Team Impulse.
The thing is, Apollo was, I would say, the best player on the team in the very beginning of the season. Rush was still learning to play competitively. Impact hadn't acclimated well. And it was actually the duo lane of Impulse that was carrying the weight the first half of the split. As time went on, the solos of Impulse got a lot better. But in the playoffs, actually, I feel like Apollo and Adrian underperformed compared to the regular season performance.
Right.
And we actually saw that in the semifinal games as well, where they had kind of some rough games in there. It's interesting to see that they are now in the 3rd place match, and they're putting weight back onto the TIP bot lane. And, you know, I do hope they do well here.
I think a lot of the synergy has been coming down with Apollo and Adrian. You've seen that lane is really, Apollo is the supplemental damage, and then Adrian is the playmaker, mostly of the team, too. Him and Rush kind of synergize to start those fights off and get the team fights going.
Impact's in danger, though. Special threatening the dive. Impact about to heat Mega Gnar. They realize they cannot dive that anymore. All in, though, for Phoenix. Yeah, the death mark already used. Oh, nice! Jumps back off the death mark, dodges the shockwave.
Sometimes you tell yourself not to ult, but then you ult anyways. It's a mental fight as an Orianna when you play against the Zed.
They're just trying to get each other's potions early, because nobody's using any summoner spells. Nobody's really going for that all-in.
Well, I want to see what the recalls are like, because Shao still has potions, and the Zed does not.
Oh, Dom off on the wings.
Oh, the smite's there. Not a lot of mana for Shao to fight back, but Rush is, so he can start to put a little bit of pressure back on the lane. See if anything happens in the outsides. Actually, from the outside to the inside comes Adrian. so they don't actually go aggressive with the knowledge of the junglers to the side lanes. It's all here in the middle.
Yeah, a lot of action in this mid lane, and this is something that Team Liquid near the end of their set that they lost in the semifinals, they were taking Phoenix off of carries. He's back on the Zed, and now they're back to putting resources into him. So this is going to be a very mid-centric game here for both these two teams, even though that wasn't how they were playing at the end of their semifinal matches.
Well, it's interesting because, yeah, mid's important, but like all these lanes have the ability to take over the game, right? It's a Callista and like a Vayne, right? It's a Vladimir running around. Like there's a lot of things to track here. It's a much less simple game than a lot of the games we've seen before, where you had very obviously like this is the one carry to deal with. So it is going to be a very complex game to keep watching and see how it goes. Impulse sitting on the smallest of leads here, 300 ahead. Neither team feeling like they can rush for a Dragon, as actually Impulse this late on feel like, okay, we got the BF sword on the Callista, let's swap back to the bottom lane. Dragon control is now a thing that's important right here. Callista very good at securing it as well.
This is going to be interesting. Dominate looks like he's going for the Warrior enchant here on Rek'Sai as opposed to the Cinderhulk. Seems like it's a European thing.
Yeah, okay.
When in Rome.
Yeah. The thing is if you get fed early on and around that level 6 to 9 area, it's completely safe to get that Warrior enchant. But if you don't get anything, the Cinderhulk is better because your damage falls off pretty severely as Rek'Sai, and you don't feel that much of a difference between taking the Warrior and not taking it.
Yeah, later on, Flat Armor Ben meaning a whole lot less as time goes on in League of Legends. I really want to see how the mid lane and bot lane pushes in right now, because I feel like Dragon is on the table very, very, very soon. The Impulse duo lane is pushed into the turret. They don't have great ward coverage to watch for Rek'Sai, though, so this Warrior enchant I will dominate has a chance of turning things around. Ward of the River right now means Impulse is fairly safe, but looks like that just timed out, and he's heading down.
Dominate said, just come over to help, I'll still take blue.
He's going for the crab control.
Yeah, red stole it.
Like you said, Dragon's still on the table, so he wants to start securing this for him. Rush, he likes to make those early moves.
Shouldn't be too bad. Liquid actually got Cutlass on both Phoenix and Piglet, so grouping for that would be pretty powerful for them right now, as you only see the Seekers for Xiao. He doesn't really have a huge burst in damage off that.
More attention towards mid. He does have Flash and Barrier still, though.
Shields himself. There's the knockout coming on in. Xiao going to take the death mark as well. A lot of damage coming through. Phoenix forces the Flash and Barrier off Xiao.
Nicely done.
Some trading in the top lane, though.
Quas just laughing it off.
Watch out.
Nice into the wall by Impact. Quas still having Sanguine Pool. He won't be able to get that off there, or will choose not to, rather. And he's going to be going back. Teleport's up for him, but that was a good hit by Impact. They kind of have control of the map here. Unfortunately, not in any other lanes for the time being, so no Dragon can really come off of this.
No, it's actually a totally fine fight for Team Liquid. Quas hadn't backed in a very long time. Now he's got Revolver. He can... I want to see if he teleports or walks to lane. Okay, good. Makes the right choice. Walks to lane. He knows, again, this Dragon is... As soon as one team gets a big rotational lead, Dragon goes down right away. Impact, right, Dominate Force top lane. His ulti's down for now, but I guess he's going to be okay. But it's very contentious. I think the bottom side of the map, people are like, how many resources can we spend while not giving this away?
Well, now that they're matching up, we'll see if any kills are given away here. Still a deathless game as we approach 11 minutes in. Only a bit of a 300 gold lead here towards Impulse as we see what the matchup will do. We are going to get Phoenix to back in the mid lane. He's got quite a bit to spend. See if he can come back and make an impact here.
And the scary thing here, you said there's no kills just yet.
Right.
If Impulse doesn't get any kills, this is a very late game scaling team comp here from Team Liquid. If they're allowed to just get through the laning phase, no problem. Vladimir plus Zed plus Vayne, that's a really scary composition in the late game. But they don't have that much wave clear. They'll split push you to death, though. They can 1-3-1 you fairly easily.
Lack of wards.
He's afraid of the Flash knock up there. Just takes the Flash down, doesn't want to risk anything because Rush is soloing this Dragon. So that's a really nice sneak by Impulse. They didn't have to buy it with almost anything. They just jumped over the wall, and they knew Skylar timed out.
And definitely different for Rush. Obviously getting his team's objectives and playing well, but maybe seeing that Dominate's playing a little bit stronger this game. Rush has been on the counter for ganks behind Xiao. They haven't been really promoting the kills for themselves. They've been playing it safe. Different from him.
Yeah, I wonder if it's because it's against a Warrior Enchant jungler, and he knows that if they just take the time, they'll outscale. I know you talk about Liquid's comp overall, scaling really well, and Vlad and Vayne, I agree with you. I'm just wondering what sort of the decision choices there by Rush, but he's certainly not forcing almost anything, and they've been into match lanes for a while now.
He's not forcing anything, but TIP has this mid-game power spike around the Orianna, around the Gnar, so if they can press that advantage when the Kalista turns online with 2 items, hopefully it's a little bit before the Vayne on Piglet for Impulse's sake, but right now you can see Dom going around. Ooh, he gets it.
The knock-up Impact down to 200 health already. Of course, he's been stacking magic resist, so Dominate's damage is massive there, and Impact gets a bad recall. He can burn the TP to get back in there with Dragon down.
You can see Rush, I don't know how comfortable he is on this Gragas just yet. The fact that he's showing up to these lanes very late just to hold them, and then he uses his barrel to clear them and kind of pick up the experience and gold. But he's not in ganking positions at opportune times. He's not invading the jungle and pressing the power spikes of Gragas.
Yeah, so at this point, not really trying to counter ganks, falling behind them a little bit. Had Quas been just a step closer, that would have been a kill onto Impact.
He's cleaned up duty.
Damage. Yeah, cleaning up, not a problem. Gragas is happy to get all the leftovers.
Dom, back to the mid though.
Oh, right onto him. That barrier and flash is down. Remember, Xiao just used it. These guys are trying to work that window, and now Impact teleporting himself to the mid lane. Here comes Quas. This is going to be a big Hemo Plague if they're still grouped up. Quas just decides to hold the ultimate. They go for the quick kill. And looks like he is going to be in a bad spot. Now he throws it down, hoping the rest of the team can collapse here. I don't know if this is going to be good. Hemo Plague goes off, and they keep following
Impact's about to hit
away
Gnar.
by Special. Mega Gnar comes in. He's got the ulti for Quas, pulls him back on the team, but Rush through the body slam. Either way, second kill comes in. Good start to Team Impulse.
That's a really good start from them because they want to keep this late game team from Liquid down as long as possible. And that was super smooth there. You saw the synergy there between the 2 Koreans on this team. Impact jumped off of Rush's head during the transform to get him the extra distance.
I gotta say, Xiao's individual play right there was great as well. Duo Shockwave, well-timed barrier. Really didn't take any meaningful damage at all from this Team Liquid dive, and it just baited all the aggression in. And this is now Team Impulse. Have to mop up their lanes real quick, but overall, a big surge of gold means the next recall is gonna be a lot of items.
Like everybody got to participate in something on that one. Across the board, assists or kills. That's 2 for Impact in the top lane. Somebody...
they're looking for blood.
Oh, wow.
Whoa, Piglet! I don't think he expected that one. The slow stays on from Ren, causing the flash. And it doesn't look good in that bottom lane either. I was just about to say, the guy they banned out the most in Impact now has 2 kills.
Yeah, exactly. I was thinking about this too, because in the sets they're playing against TSM, Impact still had champions who could carry the game on. You're banning 3 champions away from him. He still has Gnar. He still has the Shyvana. He still has things he can carry on. And that's scary. They usually ban the Rumble away from him. It's Rumble Morgana Hecarim that they're banning away.
Okay.
So, but that's the thing, is his champion pool is so deep, and he's so good at all these champions with the carry potential. If you give him kills like this, he can take over the game very quickly. And to touch on that interaction in the bottom lane, actually, Piglet had Blade of the Ruined King completed, but Apollo was staying out of the range of it by hopping backwards every time.
Yeah. Just champion interaction as well. I mean, percent health damage, not exactly amazing against other marksmen. The reason Ruined King Vayne works so well in the duo lane is because it gives you chasing power. You're typically a better duelist by being Vayne, but she's pretty much matched in that regard by the fact that she's facing a Kalista with a bunch of attack damage is going to be better in that kind of a duel. And if this snowballs at all anymore for Apollo, Piglet cannot ever fight him back.
Trying to see where the priorities lie in Vision right now. Obviously, double sight stone to the side of Liquid as they are trying to repair a bit of this bleeding that Impulse put in the beginning of the game. Mid lane has pretty much been the focus here with the 2v1. We're still waiting with Adrian making the plays. He's kind of mobilized himself with boots instead of that sightstone first. He's been trying to get to that mid lane, so you can kind of see where these guys came out of the gate from. Adrian trying to make plays. Dominate's really been trying to make moves here on this damage Rek'Sai coming out of the jungle.
And you can see Team Liquid's priorities as well. They've realized that Piglet's losing this duo lane against this Kalista, so props to Apollo and Adrian first off for that one. But the fact that Liquid needs Piglet to get ahead, they swap him to the top lane. I wouldn't be surprised if he just froze it for a while. Even though Dragon's coming up in a minute, they might just have to sacrifice Dragon just to get Piglet caught up in levels and gold, which will mean Dragon for Impulse, and it means that Quas gets the crappy 1-on-2 lane because they just care more about Piglet here.
Tilting these lanes, the solo lanes, are very important for Team Liquid. And the fact that Impact has 2 kills and can deal with Quas still is big, because this team composition wants to 1-3-1 Zed, Vladimir in solo lanes and group everybody else down mid. But TIP have guys who can still deal with these solo laners who want to split push when that pattern starts coming down. And they have enough engage with Orianna, Gragas, Gnar, all these guys, including Kalista, have ways to start a fight on the 3 members who are grouped. So Team Liquid have to play the rest of this game onward perfectly. If they make any mistakes, Impulse can immediately capitalize on it with very little margin for error.
I absolutely agree. And you can see that actually Impulse still searching for the matchup. They sent Kalista top lane, and right away Piglet recalls away, but then Impulse will be a little bit slow to this Dragon. They're just recalling their AD carry now. Dragon comes up in 4 seconds. You talked about the engage power and the fact that Liquid can't make any mistakes. I agree. I don't think even though Liquid could be first to Dragon, I don't think they can start it because they're so easily fought by Impulse here. Dominic comes to the bottom side anyway, but I don't know how this 5v5 could be won.
Yeah, there's a lot of choke point pressure, Thresh box, Orianna ball pressure, and Gragas just zoning people. It's really hard to get into the Dragon once TIP is in there first.
Yep. And Phoenix building a build that's going to be more about the burst. So sometimes we see Hex Drinker from Zed if they're afraid of the magic damage output. Doesn't have that here, so Shy Wei Xiao chunks him out easily. Team Impulse, here they go. On this side of the map, Quaspa's sent top, which is just going to get him a little bit of farm. Impulse going to get the very safe standard Dragon off a 2k gold lead thanks to their advantages. And they once again find this 2-on-2 where Kalista can beat up Vayne.
Oh. Hanging off of the side here.
Oh,
that's a wall!
Oh, pins him to the wall. Does he get the trophy too? Oh, the depth charge as well. Piglet sticks up Apollo. Gets himself a necessary kill.
It's that lockup. It's all that CC from Nautilus.
That was so absolutely beautiful. Big playmaking by Piglet. He's going to earn a turret for this one as well, which is going to bring the gold practically back to equal. So Team Liquid giving up some of that deficit. They're within 400 gold.
There's a reason he has a skin of himself on this champion. He's not using it, but there's a reason.
Humble.
Doesn't want to brag too much yet.
Being humble. Oh, that'll be his secondary skin apparently. Coming out big with the kill there. 20 CS up as well, even though he's been pushed out of lane. It actually, when we said, ooh, and he got pushed out and flashed earlier, him staying alive there was gigantic because he stayed in lane, he got the XP, and he's still up in CS. So for that kill to not go to Apollo was actually very, very big. His flash for Piglet almost back up, so he can keep going ham if he wants to. A little bit of focus here on the top lane for Impact, who hasn't really gone for too much armor. Yeah, he's got the Ninja Tabis, but if Piglet gets here with Quas, it might turn the tides of what he's got to mitigate that damage.
He's counter building lane because he thinks that Vladimir's going to be trying to split the entire game. So he wants to be able to handle him and duel him. I actually love that point that Crumbs brought up there, where he was talking about how Rush, just him being in the game causes Team Liquid to respect him and not go too deep for dives and ganks. That's pretty big, but Rush hasn't done too much with that. He's been late to the ganks. He's been late to the counter ganks. It doesn't seem like typical Rush on this champion.
It's one of those things that the other team will figure out and then act on.
I mean, now if you're not afraid of the Rush Gragas whatsoever, and it seems like so far he's not done a whole lot, this is, it could be a very good thing for Team Liquid to continue to feel aggressive. We're also seeing Liquid continue to play the rotational game very well. They're down in Dragons, they were down in Gold, and yet this is the team who's able to push turrets all around the map. Slow play by Team Impulse to not match a lot of these moves. Apollo try to make some solo plays. He's got the lifesteal to beat Quasin on one-on-one. But I don't know if he can get a lot of turret pressure down, but Phoenix and Dom could always flank around him.
All right, Zyrene. Will finished. Dominate finished his item. 2 blades. What do you want? Well, what should we see Team Liquid be doing, rather?
You should see them, as soon as they get Youmuu's power spikes, if they go for them, group up and have those mid-game fights. But it's really hard to take a mid-game fight against this team. As soon as Rush completes a Righteous Glory, you have to be in a position where you know you can start the fight before they do.
Right.
So the split pushes and taking turrets is probably what Team Liquid's going to go for, because they have options right now at this point in the game.
Well, they've definitely closed a bit of the gold gap that they had earlier, and that's when Team Impulse starts to fall behind, when they're not the one in the lead. Only a small lead right now for Liquid, but they are now starting to get those forward wards, maybe something that won't make them so cautious against those ganks with Rush off in the dark fog of war.
Yeah, Xpecial's actually going to go for his own Righteous Glory here, too. So that'll give them the option to help start fights on Team Liquid's side. It's going to be very interesting how this mid-game kind of hashes out.
Well, both teams definitely giving each other respect as they come into this game. Yeah. We see pretty much the same compositions they've been bringing out. Nobody trying anything crazy, even though we say they have a bit of room to work with game 1 out of a best-of-5 series. And it looks like Impulse really knew how to stop Team Liquid in the beginning here, but Team Liquid's mid-game is something they have been buckling down on quite a bit.
Well, they're going straight for this tower while Zed is bottom and Vayne Piglet's out of position right now. They're just going to force this very quickly.
Team Impulse have a little bit of time. Zed is not going to reach the tier 2 turret just yet, and the pressure is still coming in quite nicely. Piglet zoned off to the side as well. You mentioned earlier Impulse counter building all the various lanes, and I agree. Right. If Impulse were to just like straight match the split push, I think it would be just fine for them, but the ability to group up, like before the Righteous Glory is finished there for Xpecial, I think there's still more tools in the hands of Team Impulse here, so they're the team I'm really watching to see how well they can play aggressively. And the big test for them, to me, is the fact that this has been a win lane, win game team for the most part. That they win their games in 25 minutes because they win their lanes so hard and just randomly push and things fall over. When they were tested severely by Team Solo Mid, it was a much slower game for them. They didn't have very crisp rotations. They weren't able to play the map quite properly here. And up against Team Liquid, who's happy to split push them, who's happy to put pressure in various different lanes, I want to see how well Impulse can react to this.
And you were talking about win lane, win game. If they don't win lane, they still play like they're going to win the game. Yeah. They never roll over. They always try to team fight you. And that's a little scary here with this team composition because they have ways to constantly fight you on TIP's side. So if Liquid do ever get a lead, their wave clear is rather poor. They're down to split pushing. Their core unit of 3, if they do go for the 1-3-1 or even just have 4 people, is always vulnerable to the hard engage.
Yeah. Vayne, Rek'Sai, Nautilus, not really that durable, right? Fighter jungler who went Locket second, so even squishier. Nautilus support just not going to be taking for a long time. Really only Alistar and Leon get to hold that moniker early on in the game. 43 seconds on the next Dragon. Impulse, I still feel like should feel like the stronger team on the map right now. Yeah. I want to see if Apollo can finish Hurricane in time, though. He's 200 gold short on the combine, which would be a sorely missed break point. Yeah. We might see Impulse delay a little bit of time to try to get into that item before they fight.
It's kind of like the old saying we used to have for LMQ that kind of follows into Impulse. It's the thing that makes them win can be the thing that also makes them lose, and that's always wanting to fight. Rush, we saw that before on his Nunu, flashing in for Ice Blast and an absolute zero just to keep someone in range for a second, and it didn't kind of work out here. A little more calm, cool, and collected, and it's really working out for them to keep in a steady game.
But Impulse are first to Dragon. Even though they're standing on top of the Rift Scuttle, they've got some deep wards inside the jungle. They can see Team Liquid come in on them. Phoenix still no Righteous Glory. It's hard for Liquid to start this fight, so Impulse rush it down.
Phoenix is a little far away from this fight. If it gets engaged before he's there, it's going to be trouble.
That's going to be big. The hook onto Xpecial, and he doesn't have much armor to be in that fight for too long. Hemoplague's down. They're going to have to assess the damage after this happens, and it looks like they still want it. Phoenix goes straight in. That's onto Apollo. Looks like he's going to live with the lifesteal up, and he is back there with Adrian getting all the help. Adrian's like, peace out, man. I got your lantern if you need it, but he's not going to take it. They're all back into the fight together. He goes in. It's going to be a 3v1. Dominate. He is trying to do just that to this. There's one. Trying to go for a second one now. There's not too much damage to follow up. The Lantern of the Dark Passage saves Rush, and it looks like Dominate does not have enough follow-up. We are going to see Quaz kind of hovering around the top side here if anybody else were to come to the fight, but it doesn't look like they're going to achieve too much more from this. A teleport, however, to the bottom lane here from Impact. They may recall to the fight. Impact's in now, and this could be bad for Dominate. He's trying to call the rush. He gets knocked out of it, and Dominate goes a little too far. Pop goes to Rek'Sai, and they come up with another kill.
The Goomba stomp there at the end. Oh, the fact he's able to get that damage off. It's interrupted by damage, the Void Rush.
Right.
So he's able to just get that one hit in there. That hook, before Phoenix is ready to start this fight, Xpecial doesn't have anything to say here. He doesn't even get his ultimate off in this fight, let alone a flash or ignite. The Hemoplague was good, but the fact that nobody was there to follow up on the damage, it's all about, like, the Hemoplague is about increasing the percent damage that people take. It was solely used for just the burst damage by itself there. No follow-up. Good positioning, but the fact that they weren't able to follow up and Phoenix wasn't there was bad, and Xpecial getting caught.
And absolutely amazing mechanics by the Team Impulse crew. They're playing around Apollo a lot here, to be honest. I know Impact's got all the kills, but Apollo's a big centerpiece. Impact flashed back just to make sure he could land Gnar on the diving Zed. Like, these guys were so ready for everything Liquid would do in the team fight. I'm still surprised Liquid chose the battle. They were late, they didn't have vision, their team fight comp's not as good. They tried anyway. And Liquid have to do a lot of soul searching in how to get back in this game. Their wave clear is pretty bad. Their defensive, sort of posture is not going to be very good here. And Impulse, again, counter building all the lanes and having to fed AD carry. All the tools once again are with the blue team.
I like when you mentioned about their fight, because if you do look at it, it looks like one of the hardest fights to coordinate, because people are bouncing around, getting thrown down, getting chucked around by Fate's Call, getting hit by Shockwave. So you're going to be missing or either hitting everything. It's kind of a high risk, high reward there.
So welcome to the bounce house whenever you show up in the Team Impulse.
You know what's funny? Every single person on Impulse can make someone else on Team Liquid move around.
Yep.
Yeah.
They can bounce out the entire enemy team. That's so difficult to deal with.
How do you think you start a party?
Yeah.
Just like that.
Just push them around. It's a mosh pit.
Get everybody to move. Oh, Apollo. A little danger towards that bottom, but he'd be okay as he comes back up with the team. 30 minutes coming up on the clock, 5-2, as we're kind of still crawling along in this one.
Yeah, we're crawling along, but Xiao's farm isn't. It's 27 minutes in. He's at 316
When is it ever?
He is 60 CS up over his lane opponent, Phoenix. They put resources into Xiao. They gave him a farm-oriented champion, and they gave him ways to get the ball in there and get his damage done. He's going to be a force to be reckoned with.
Okay, Peglet. You're 1-0, but you're facing Thornmail, Randuin's Ninja Tabby. If Peglet can win this fight, then good for him. He wanted to beat his ex-teammate.
So badly. Like, this is the thing. If you go for it and you lose, everybody's watching.
Well, Impact. No longer a dinosaur, now just a onesie.
Now just in the onesie.
It's a threatening onesie, though. Better back off.
He's got boomerangs, man.
He's out.
Best
He's
be
safe.
careful.
Oh, hello.
Yep.
All right.
Very Impulse-like, if you will.
There's no vision of it yet. Dom has to check this.
Oh, Seeker. Didn't quite hit.
He has a sight stone. He has wards.
Man.
See you later, Alligator. They make it out clean. And it does not look like there's going to be any fighting coming from Team Liquid on this one. No contest for the Baron, and Impact works small leads very well. Let's see how they get this one with this fight comp. They're just going to start pushing down mid.
But how are you going to clear these waves that are Baroned up on a low wave clear team?
Yeah.
You're not going to be able to on Team Liquid. They're going to get free turrets for this Baron.
You can see Dominate goes over just to clear a wolf camp. He knows he can't fight for anything. Impulse, they could split push and win. They could group as 5 and win. Almost anything's going to work here for Impulse. This comp is going to work so well while ahead. As long as they can peel for Zed. Here he goes onto Apollo. Going to get exhausted up. Dominate into the back line. Still looking for this AD carry, but Apollo refuses to go down. First kill comes off as Dominate falls over. Phoenix back into the back lines. Special one hit away from Gone, slurping away. They've actually managed to trade that one kill back on to Rushman and Piglet. Will trade back as well. 2 for 2. Quas goes down to a dissonance. Nice damage, and now it's going to be Impulse inside the base.
That's all that farm right there, chunking Vladimir out, and they're going to get an inhibitor for that. There's no way you can clear these waves on Team Liquid's side. The fact that they drafted this comp that's all about split pushing, and they never got into the split push pattern because of the team fight potential of TIP is really, really big right off the draft.
It gets harder and harder. Still, again, looking at the Impulse composition, you talk about the wave clear. Everything Impulse can start with is beyond that wave clear as well. You got a Gragas Barrel, you got the Orianna ultimate coming in, and Impact, he's not afraid to throw his entire body into the fight as Meganar, so things aren't looking good here. Game 1 for Team Liquid definitely needed to be ahead by this point.
Yeah, they immediately go onto Apollo, and it looks like they have the flank here, but Phoenix already snapped back to his shadow, and Rush engages on the opposite side. Xiao is just dealing damage in the backline. He is completely fine, and you can see he starts chunking people out here. The hook onto Piglet for the pickup was absolutely amazing there. He loses his life for it, but it's completely worth because it allows them to get that inhibitor and get more pressure on the map that Team Liquid can't deal with.
Yeah, so Team Impulse in control for Dragon 4 very easily. They've still got a minute left on Baron, so they can knock down at least another inhibitor turret, I would say, is probably what I would expect during the duration of this Baron buff to get what they want here. I also got to point out that one Rush death that he has now in this game was him playing like he did in the TSM game, where he would just like flash in a turret and be like, oh, I didn't kill you. All right, well,
so close.
Good luck, my team. So, you know, we got 30 minutes in, and Rush just went back to his old form. You're a tank jungler. You're not Lee Sin. You know, you just got to be a little bit more careful, dude. Oh well.
That's the thing that comes with repetition and playing that champion a whole bunch, is learning the damage output of on certain other champions, certain enemies.
Knowing those boundaries, with the boundaries of Gragas, they're actually pretty big. Waist-sized boundaries are all big. 31 minutes on, they do not care about what's happening behind the turret. Now the fight's coming out front. Phoenix goes right in. Calls actually back to the ultimate shadow, so he's not providing any more damage. The Hemo Plague is only going to tickle Impulse at this point, and Impact is just having a field day underneath and inside the base. He gets finally taken. Oh,
he's still alive!
What? Oh, wow! How in the world?
He gets alive. A little bit of the hyper gets him to safety. Now on to Dominate. Good kills coming there as well. And Team Impulse just assess the fight perfectly, aren't able to clean up Liquid. Piglet's gonna go down. Can he make it in the door? Jumped over by Impact. Oh my gosh! Using the front door for an escape and an attack mechanism, but he finally goes down. Phoenix is the last one left to watch the base fall.
It's a 4-for-2. Impulse have super minions on top of Nexus turrets right now, but looks like they're afraid of Zed killing them back. So drop the inhibitor, get back out of the base. Team Liquid did surprisingly well in that fight, though. A 4-for-2 and against Baron buff, against a team that's up like 10,000 gold on you practically. Yeah. Pretty well fought by Team Liquid, and good job putting so much pressure on Apollo that he couldn't hit people very often. But at this point, just the gold lead is almost too much to bear.
Yeah. Taking advantage of a little craziness by Impulse there.
Yeah, and Apollo now has his QSS completed. This fight he didn't, and he's the priority target here. They used everything on him, and now he has the QSS, so he'll be able to get rid of these status effects at this point in time. So he's flashing away. They're putting so much into him, and this is a team that you don't think has a lot of peel. But they have a Gnar, they have a Gragas, they have so many tools, plus the Orianna shield, to actually keep Apollo safe. They actually give up going for Apollo and swap to Xiao Xiao halfway through the fight, and they don't kill either of them at the start. Another thing is they aren't following up the Hemo Plague very well from Quas. Quas is laying that down, but then the damage has already been
Everybody
kind
of just got out of the fight.
Yeah, well, this is kind of the problem with the team composition is really you don't have any indiscriminate target seekers. Zed can only look for one person. It's got to be very opportunistic. Piglet also has to be very, very opportunistic. So you can't guarantee that you knock down whoever Vlad's hitting. You don't have a Karthus or a Kennen or something that's going to just hit everybody and make sure that damage works out. So, yeah, I'm not necessarily sold on the Vlad right now. They picked it for the flex, but looks like a great play by Team Impulse to play around the champion quite nicely.
And Impulse, they're going for all 3 inhibitors here to just put that nail in the coffin in this game 1 and give themselves that momentum.
Once they get that lead, they make it quite textbook. Right around the horn, now the final inhibitor turret's going to be going down. Let's see if Fate's Call can be thrown anywhere here for Adrian. Looks like they're all staying on the back line. Safety in this as well. They know they have the lead, but they're in no hurry. I lied. Xiao Xiao's in a hurry.
But it actually doesn't matter. He's so far ahead in farm that he does so much damage with his command attacks and dissonance.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he's still threatening.
It's true. They're like 300 to 500 damage every few seconds.
It doesn't
hitting
matter
in the
at
face.
the moment.
It's pretty painful, especially with that blue buff on. He's moving it just about every 2 seconds. So they'll back. Impulse knows they have time to work with here, and this bodes very well for the mentality. They know what it's like to have that clean sweep come around, so they're going to stay strong throughout their wins. Let's see if Team Liquid can as well assess what happened here and start thinking about Game 2. We heard that actually if you watch the Team Solo Mid video online. That's what they said as soon at the end of Game 1 against Impulse is just think about Game 2, forget about this. We got to figure out what Impulse is going to do.
And it was a convincing win by Impulse.
It was.
Game 1
Yes,
against
it was.
ESM.
That Ori
Being
play.
able to keep your cool head is something that Liquid has been trying to work on, and getting reverse sweep multiple times. They need to be able to learn with best of 5 format and keep their mentality up, even when a game strikes you this hard.
Yeah. And of course, there's many ways for Team Liquid to play the rest of the series as well. If they can't, hold on to this game right here, it's good to see that they're willing to play other carry scheme. But come in, there's the engage on in towards Phoenix. Apollo takes a whole bunch of CC, but Deal comes actually in towards Rush. That's the death mark target, but down goes Dominic to a great Gnar in from Impact of the top lane. It's a 1-for-1 though, as Adrian did fall. Quas buying a lot of time. Piglet hitting whomever he can. Impact is all.
He's looking for his ex-teammate.
The kill picked out the shutdown for Piglet. It's a 2-for-1 for Team Liquid, by the way. The durability and the elusiveness of Vladimir and Vayne allowing them to pick up a couple of kills without going down.
Very, very hectic and sloppy team fight there from both sides. The peel looked like it was just completely absent. Everybody's just going at each other's throats. The main target at the start was Apollo. Didn't even take any damage after that. It looked like a feint, and then they immediately went on to Adrian from Team Liquid's side. Really interesting fight. Baron is live, too, so with the two members down, Quas is going to clear waves, and they're going to try to use the double Blade of the Ruined King for percent HP damage and the True Silver Bolts. But here's the thing, is there's so much damage, AoE disruption, from the 2 members who are right here on your screen.
Impact has teleport. He's alive in 4 seconds, and he can probably buy a home guard if he wanted to on this one. He could sell something, whatever. Looks like there's not going to be an attempt. Quas holding the bottom lane. Liquid only just going for the ward control here, but they do force Impulse to respect this side of the map. And the ward battle continues here. Honestly, Dragon 5, by the way, is respawning in 5 seconds. Impulse honestly could give Baron for Dragon and just use that to push the game in.
Definitely could be something on the plate. A little bit of time
Or
here to
vice
be
versa.
waited for both teams.
It's a little risky, though.
Oh,
He's going
Oh,
all the
he
way!
took it at the end. He didn't think he had it. Phoenix could be caught here. He throws down the Ghost Blade. He's going to get a little extra movement speed and get to safety, but that could be the window for 5 here. That could be what they needed.
They have to fight this. There's going to be a team fight right now that's going to start. It's now or never.
Fox comes in, and special to the front line. 2,000 health. They're staying on to Baron. Dominate does not win this fight. It's going to be Apollo, and Dom will lose his life for this one. It's going to be 1-0 to start. Impact tanking up in the front lines. Multiple kills coming through. Liquid losing their lineup. Nice stun by Kwasa. Double kill for Apollo. Time for the game-winning push.
Getting the Dragon 5 in the middle of the team fight is what gave them that extra boost on top of everything else. They didn't even have to fight over the Baron, because if Team Liquid got the Baron, a split push team with that is very deadly. But look at that, Adrian wants more.
More indeed. The Shockwave goes down. Special as well has the same fate. Piglet's going to be the next one to go, and they will take this along with the minion wave to Nexus turrets. An ace onto Team Liquid to close out game 1. 18-8 as they approach 40 minutes into the game. They got their gold lead. They pushed that gold lead, and the advantage brings them game 1 in this best-of-5 series.
100% kill participation for Adrian. And Rush, despite not making a lot of early game moves, still ends up dictating a lot of the late game.
That's right. Team Impulse take down Team Liquid for game 1.
The team fighting of Team Impulse. You can see the styles coming out here. Impulse picking a team fight standard composition, the Orianna mid, the Gnar ulti, all that. The lowest kill participation on the team was 16 of 18.
Yeah.
There were no solo kills here for the most part. It was all about grouping up, playing the dragons, playing the turrets. Impulse did that largely very well. Team Liquid, they tried to make some split pushes happen. The Vladimir, even though he's a good team fighter, doesn't synergize well with Vayne or Zed. True damage, not amplified, right? All those kinds of fun things.
Right.
So they picked for split pushing. Team Liquid picked for split pushing, and yet the Impulse, the win lane, win game team, they picked a strong bot lane, they picked a strong mid lane, they picked a strong top lane, even blind picking these, and they won those lanes. So the split push never came out for Team Liquid. Impulse played the game they wanted to. They were always first to Dragon. They were always first to the big objectives, and it was a well-played game.
There's a couple of good things here for TIP. One, they didn't have to rely on Rush winning them the early game. They played to their strengths in Champion Select and as a team and a unit. And the big thing here as well is everybody showed that they're reliable, and when they play their game, Team Liquid has to match them.
Yeah, Team Liquid had to match the Team Impulse team fight style. Right. Well played by Tip to do that. I also want to point out, this game had an 8,000 gold deficit for the last 10 minutes, and Liquid still had a series of good team fights.
That's true.
Which
that
is
last top and hit fight was a little scary that scattered down in the mid lane.
TIP, they don't usually seem to assess the team fights, whether they're behind or ahead. They just go for the team fights if they can pop the Righteous Glory and start it.
The thing is, there were so many moments that were well played by Team Impulse. Specifically, there was a moment, Apollo took a Nautilus ultimate and walked to a wall. He's like, Zed's going to ult me, and I'm going to let you get Gnar ulted. And actually, Impact missed that Gnar ult right after in that team fight, which is kind of a big deal.
But it forced the Zed to snap back immediately after.
Right, but that was so cool, is even though these fights are starting and it's a bunch of hectic assassins trying to dive through and do all these crazy things from Team Liquid, all the Tip members are ready for it, and they're they already know what these guys are trying to do. They're already ready to walk him into the wall, pop the Gnar ulti, all this stuff.
Mind.
It's really impressive how Team Impulse are playing those team fights as well.
We'll see if they can fire off more of those mind bullets here as we get into game 2, or proceed to game 2. Let's see what our analysts make of Impulse's first win before we get ahead of ourselves of the series.
Pew, pew, pew.
Thank you, Riv. I want to touch on exactly what they're talking about, which is the team compositions that came out, how they were played. Kobe, at the beginning of the show today, you talked about how both of these teams in their last series had picked what were their most comfortable comps, or the comps that they really wanted to play and lost. So the big question coming into today was, would they change things up? What would they pick up in their week off in order to come in with something new? Well, it looks like Impulse decided to go ahead and pick up Gragas on Rush, and it seemed to pay off a little bit for him.
No surprise there. I feel like Gragas is basically the Lee Sin of the Cinderhulk junglers. He has a dash that he can use to either engage or disengage. He has an AoE slow, and he has an ultimate for knockback, right? He's an early brawling champion that can affect the lanes very early. We'll see if Rush continues with that champion and plays him like that.
Yeah, it seemed like even though Rush was behind in CS to Owl Dominate at times, it's because Owl Dominate was taking multiple waves of lane CS. I really feel like
Rush was completely fine in the early game of that. And honestly, because Team Liquid did not kind of snowball ahead in the early game, the pressure that Impulse was able to apply with their ranged wave clear and turret threat was overwhelming to Team Liquid, who had low wave clears.
Yeah, I also thought that Team Liquid were going to go more split push with Rek'Sai and Zed on their team. That didn't seem like they fully committed to it. If you're going to team fight with this team, Nautilus is not an all-in-one tank in this meta. Like, he's got an ultimate that can set up consecutive crowd control abilities. But if that's all you're bringing to the table, you're not going to be able to win a team fight versus this team with Gnar. Impact's frontline presence was perfect. Impact just crushed the entire team the entire time. Assassin's popping in, he's right on top of them. Zed or Vladimir or Vayne, he hops on anybody who's trying to get to his back line, and Impact did a really good job peeling and landing crowd control this game.
Yeah, many times we saw the initiate from Team Liquid come through in the Nautilus ultimate, and then as maybe the follow-up came in, Gnar ult into the wall, you're all done, you're all stunned, and now we get to turn in on you.
Nice setup ult.
Impact was the carry of this game, honestly. That was what we were kind of thinking might happen in the TSM series if Impulse was going to succeed. And team compositionally, like if the Gnar gets ahead, that's what wrecks Team Liquid the most, especially early on in the game, because we look at Team Liquid, they had the Vladimir in the top lane as the only magic damage on their team. Outside of that, they have Rek'Sai, Zed, and Vayne. So unless Impact somehow has to itemize a lot of magic resistance to get through the lane against Vladimir, which didn't have to happen because they started forcing team fights fairly quickly. As soon as he stacks armor, since he's able to do that before any of the AD carries, or Vladimir most importantly stacks up, he is going to be an absolute monster. And that's pretty much what happened.
Yeah. Plus, we have to talk about, the consequences of losing the first game like this. I think that may weigh heavily on Team Liquid. I keep going back to the point of the mentality of junglers. And I really feel like Rush is going to get inside Dominate's head after this game. We'll have to see, though, Team Liquid, if they can regroup after number one.
Well, Team Liquid won the first 2 games of their semifinal series. Team Impulse won the first game. Winners of series.
We've almost seen more reverse sweeps than we have.
I was going to say, this might be painting a pretty picture for Team Liquid. They're setting them up.
Everybody's getting reverse swept.
Yeah,
all right.
There it is.
Tia win.
Chat's polling for the reverse sweep here. One other thing we've talked about a lot with team compositions on Liquid's side in the past was Phoenix finally showed up in playoffs, playing playmaking champions, the assassins, things that allowed him to be aggressive. Then they took him off of those in their loss to C9. He's back on Zed this game. It doesn't work out this time, though, and there is a distinct lack of wave clear when you're going up against Team Impulse, who is the most aggressive of the aggressive teams.
So a pick that I think is going to be making a lot of noise in LCS finals is Orianna mid, especially with the return of Athenes and the fact that the protection and the enabling of certain champions is incredibly potent. That's what Orianna is in a lot of ways. He's an enabler and also someone who can protect other champions to enable them to succeed. And basically, when he is shielding whichever target Phoenix jumps into ult, since the overall teamfight composition isn't there from Team Liquid, suddenly Zed becomes heavily ineffective since Xiao was so fed with so much ability power at that point. If he's going to pick Zed, they need to somehow stop Xiao from being able to protect the targets that he is attacking.
I'm a huge fan of shields in the new meta because it gives you a lot of versatility in team fights. Now we aren't used to thinking of team fight trades. Like trades are mostly for a laning phase. You're like ADKs trading back and forth health. Now you actually have trades within team fights because they last so long. And shielding allows you to make those trades profitable. You can either put it on your tank for the extra resistances or protect your carry that's getting focused right now.
I was going to say, as we see these fights extend, right? They're no longer one and done 10-second 5-second fights. They're extending to 15, 20, 30. The importance of things like shields and utility become that much higher because you can get off, instead of getting off 1 or 2 shields, you're getting off 4 or 5, essentially way more effective health.
Well, that's the thing too with armor and magic resistance. For instance, one of the reasons Gnar became such a monster in this game, imagine a Gnar with a 200 health shield. So if Gnar has 300 armor, that means in order to do 300 damage, you have to do, I had the numbers in my head a second ago. it's about 3 times as much. So it's close to like 900 damage to do 300. So that 200 damage shield shields 600 damage worth of damage because of how much armor is on Gnar. And the tankier someone gets, the more effective shields get. They actually multiply in that sense.
Right. It's a ruby crystal, right? Every time you're shielding them, it's a ruby crystal of health, but then multiplied by their armor. So you can, when you say, I'm going to shield this guy 3 times during a fight, that's 600 multiplied by 3. We've got 1,800 health. There's another person in this fight.
Plus, you don't get to cut through them with Blade of the Rune King. Percentage health things.
Good point. Yeah, so we saw a prevalence of the Blade of the Rune King. We saw the Vayne come out for Piglet. He actually was doing a fair amount of work there. We saw even at the end in the, the 2v5, mechanically he's there. So I do feel that when we take a quick look at what's coming up ahead of us, Piglet on the carry champion is something that Liquid can still look for, but maybe then they do go to that Orianna, try and enable him a little bit more, give him a little bit more protection as opposed to saying, well, we're all going in, you're on your own.
I'm pulling for the Azir for Phoenix. That's definitely my favorite champion of his.
Azir has popped up in the other regions as well, so maybe he will make his way back to North America. Well, while the teams prepare for the next match, head to lolesports.com and read up on how the pros prepare for the tank meta with the article, How to Win a Championship Playoff, Teams Adapt to the Cinderhulk item, written by our very own Joshua Jan Leesman. Woo! Boom, there it is. Then meet us back here for Game 2 between Team Liquid and Team Impulse. The spring playoffs continue after this.
Bipolo? Bipolo, Bipolo.
Bipolo.
C-Polo, D-Polo, Bipolo.
Wow. Zhao. No, never mind.
Back into the back lines. Special one hit away from Godspeed the wave. They've actually managed to trade that 1 kill back onto Rushman and Piglet.
Piglet's gonna go down. Can he make it in the door? Jumped over by Impact. Oh my gosh.
Impact is on.
He's looking for his ex-teammate.
The kill picked up the shutdown for Piglet.
I'm getting in the dragon.
Okay.
Dragon. I got it. Hey, Callisto, Rek'Sai.
Ted. GG. Brings them game 1 in this best of 5 series.